My husband cheated with my best friend, how I exposed their affair and took control of my life. No, you're mistaken. That's not it at all. You just don't get it. The words echo in my mind, reminding me of lyrics from a song I once heard. I turn my attention back to the man standing before me, crying and apologizing. It's mortifying that this man, this pitiful figure, is my husband. But that ends today. It's okay, really, you look good. We'll make it through this. My name is Sarah, and I'm 27 years old. I work in an office. I've been friends with my colleagues, Ryan and Emily, since we first started working at the same company. We'd often hang out outside of work, but when Emily started dating someone, it was usually just Ryan and me. I'd always seen Ryan as a good friend, but he saw me differently. It took me by surprise when he confessed his feelings for me. That confession made me begin to see him in a new light. "How about we give this a try?" he asked. I was caught off guard, but we started dating. Emily teased us about it, saying, "Is this for real?" But Ryan turned out to be a man who took our relationship seriously and treated me with care. Over time, I grew to feel the same way. A few months into our relationship, Emily announced that she was getting married to her longtime boyfriend. She even asked me to give a speech at her wedding. "Sarah, you're next," she joked. The following year, Ryan and I decided to marry as well. Of course, I asked Emily to give a speech. Work was going well, and I felt thrilled at the thought of spending my life with the man I loved. I truly thought I was the happiest person in the world. How naive I was. Months after our wedding, I found out I was pregnant. "Hey, can you hear me?" Ryan would say, his hand resting on my belly. "I don't think the baby can hear you yet," I'd reply. Those moments of joy lasted only the first 2 weeks before I was hit with the full force of morning sickness. I feel awful. Is this what morning sickness feels like? Soon, the constant nausea took over. I was nauseous from both the vomiting and eating types of morning sickness. I ate to stave off the sickness, only to feel sick from eating. It became an endless cycle. What terrified me most was that there seemed to be no end in sight. My search history on my phone was full of questions. When will morning sickness end? How can I feel better during morning sickness? Will it last until delivery? On my toughest days, I'd tell myself, this is just a sign the baby is growing. It will end eventually. But just when I thought it couldn't get worse, Ryan would walk in and announce, "I'm home." "Hey, Sarah, feeling sick again." His words stung. How could he say that when I was carrying his child? No, it's not again. It's been constant morning sickness. Despite my struggle to speak, Ryan blurted out, "Okay, fine. What's for dinner?" That was when I lost it. "Can't you see I've been sick all day? Cooking dinner is the last thing I could do." I raised my voice. "Don't push a pregnant woman this far." They say women change after marriage, and it's true. "You've been so moody lately, Sarah. All we've been having are frozen meals and takeout. You used to take care of yourself," he said, his tone dripping with disdain. To make things worse, he added, "Look at Emily's social media. She's always cooking these fancy meals. I'm so jealous." Twice? Don't compare a housewife with no kids to a pregnant woman who's constantly sick. I couldn't argue anymore, so I muttered, "Whatever, I'm going to bed." Tears flowing freely. Since we got married, Ryan had grown careless in how he treated me. Once you've got her, you don't need to try anymore, they say. And that's exactly how Ryan was. Divorce crossed my mind often, though financial worries and hope for change when our child arrived kept me from acting on it. My mental state was in ruins, and for a pregnant woman, the toll was unbearable. Despite it all, the baby was growing healthily inside me. That was the one thing that kept me going. One day, we had a huge argument, and I said, "I'm going back to my parents' house." The reason? Ryan said I wasn't doing enough around the house. Think about it, Ryan. I'm pregnant. I leave and come back at the same time as you, yet you think it's great when you come home to a hot meal, I told him. It was infuriating. Household chores usually fell on me, and Ryan's only contribution was taking out the trash. I'd tried to get him to do more, but his response was, "I'm not good with that stuff." "Then go back to your parents' house," I snapped. Ryan was silent for a moment before picking up his phone. He spoke to someone on the other end and then handed it to me with a smug look on his face. "Here. It's for you." I didn't want to talk to the person, but the caller insisted. I grabbed the phone and immediately heard, "What do you mean, kicking my son out?" It was Ryan's mother, Karen. I couldn't stand her. In fact, I hated her. Most people would be shocked at such a conversation, but not me. I told Ryan that if he didn't let me go back to my family's house, I had every right to leave. "Why should Ryan be the one to stay?" I asked. "Shut up," I added. "What gives parents the right to get involved in a fight between adults?" Then I hung up on her. It's been like this since we married. I tried to keep things civil at family events, but Karen would play the victim, saying things like, "My son's wife is so rude. I'm always the one hurt." I've been called the strict wife behind my back. Karen and I clash because we're both too direct. Raised as the youngest of all brothers, I became a strong-minded woman, and of course Karen didn't like that, calling me unladylike and cheeky. I don't care what she thinks, but talking to her exhausts me, which is tough on my pregnant body. It's like I drew the short straw when it comes to both my husband and my mother-in-law. I've had enough, I thought. Ryan knows how I am, so whenever there's trouble he sends Karen to deal with me. Like children fighting and hiding behind their parents, I thought. Then, one day, my morning sickness finally stopped. "I don't feel sick anymore, thank God!" But then, in his usual clueless way, Ryan said, "Now you can take care of the house." Life is a cruel teacher, and I'd learned not to expect anything from him. The only good thing? I wasn't as irritated. Little did I know, Ryan would do something even more absurd. Someone once said, criticism is the best form of flattery, and as my pregnancy progressed, my belly grew bigger, and I started dealing with leg cramps and frequent bathroom trips, but every kick I felt brought me joy. Though I had some mild morning sickness in the 3rd trimester, it was nothing compared to the earlier months. With the support of my colleagues, I worked up until my maternity leave. I wasn't lucky with my in-laws, but I truly appreciated everyone at work. "We'll definitely come visit once the baby's born and things calm down. Can't wait to meet little Sarah," one of my colleagues said. And that made me happy. I didn't trust Ryan and had no intention of relying on my in-laws, so I decided to give birth at my parents' house, 2 hours away. My parents, excited for their first grandchild, couldn't wait for the arrival. My parents have a strong, loving relationship. My dad was tough on us growing up, but he always made sure to praise us when we deserved it. Even after years of marriage, he remained deeply in love with my mom. When she would trip slightly, he'd rush to check, "Are you okay? No injuries?" That's what you'd call a devoted husband, even though my mom would joke, "Stop it, you're embarrassing me." But deep down, she treasured his concern. Now, it was Ryan's turn to take care of Sarah. "You better step up," my dad told him as he came to pick me up, with the birth fast approaching. "Of course I'll handle everything at home," Ryan replied, clearly missing the point. My dad raised an eyebrow. I felt my face flush with embarrassment. What did Ryan mean by, "I'll handle everything at home"? What about taking care of your wife and the baby about to be born? That's what should matter. Ryan had one redeeming quality, though, his ability to get along with anyone. My serious dad, often misunderstood, had warmed up to Ryan because of his relentless cheerfulness. When I first met him, I was happy to see that he got along with my family. On the way to my parents' house, Dad hesitated, then said, "Ryan is—" "Never mind, Dad. I know what you're about to say. Ryan is an idiot, right?" I was looking forward to some time away from Ryan, hoping I could relax before the baby came. Unfortunately, the latest checkup revealed that the baby was breech, and, despite our attempts to turn her, a C-section became unavoidable. Ben, who was working similarly for years. "They're going to cut me open," I said quietly. I'd been fortunate to live a healthy life, but this wasn't just childbirth, it was surgery. When I expressed my fear, Mom reassured me. "You're going to be a mother, you know. Sarah, you were breech too, and I had to have a C-section with you. I was scared, but the moment you cried, all that fear disappeared." She patted my shoulder comfortingly. "A mother's love truly knows no bounds. In the end, my baby stayed breech, and I delivered a healthy girl by C-section." "I finally get to meet you," I said, overwhelmed by emotion. All the pain I'd gone through during pregnancy hit me, and I broke into tears. My parents cheered. "You did great, well done." They marveled at how adorable the baby was, and even my dad, who was usually composed, was more emotional than I was. Ryan, however, wasn't there. I had told him not to come. It might seem cruel, but once the C-section was scheduled, I did let Ryan know. "Do I really need to be there? Axel and the others are here too," he replied. I was stunned. "Don't come," I said, and hung up. I informed the hospital that Ryan might not be coming, and as expected, he didn't show. After I was discharged, I returned to my parents' house where they helped me settle in and focus on childcare. They even handled the birth registration, while Ryan didn't send a single message. Karen did call, though, saying, "Bring the baby over soon." "I'll come if I can," I said, then ended the call. 2 weeks after giving birth, the doorbell rang late at night. "Who could that be?" Mom asked. After a brief conversation with the visitor, they both walked into the living room. "Tammy, wow, it's been a while. So this is my kid? She's so tiny." It was Ryan, arriving unannounced after work at 9 p.m. Lily, who had just fallen asleep, woke up due to Ryan's loud voice. "Wow, you need to keep up." Mom stood behind him, glaring. "What are you doing here at this hour unannounced? Don't you think it's rude?" Ryan grinned, and without even trying to calm Lily, said, "Mommy's as scary as ever." This guy. I wanted to kick him out, but then he said something even more outrageous. "Cammy, let's go home." "What?" I was taken aback by his words, but I stammered out, "I thought I'd check on you, and you look fine. Let's go." As I struggled to respond, he added, "I mean, the house is a mess. I'm not good at cleaning, so could you handle that?" He clasped his hands in front of me like he was praying. What? This rant, like the most Just then, a low voice interrupted. "Hey, oh, sorry for intruding." It was Axel, coming to pick up Sarah and Lily. Ryan was still grinning, the only one in the room doing so. Didn't he get it? They say a mother's love is endless, but you're acting like this after a C-section? Are you a samurai or something? Just kidding, but I wish he'd stop talking. When I saw Dad's face, he finally realized he had crossed a line. Why the mean look? Axel and I are buddies, right? He tried to defend himself. Dad's voice, calm but firm, echoed through the room. "You think you can treat my daughter like this? Don't make a fool of her. Get out now," Dad laid down the law. After his words, I turned to Ryan and said, "Ryan, I'm divorcing you." They say the resentment from pregnancy and childbirth lasts forever, but this was a problem long before that. I had already decided to leave him after the baby was born, though part of me hoped that seeing the baby would bring back the Ryan I once knew. In the end, Ryan only cared about himself. I should have left him sooner. "As long as you pay, that's all that matters," I told him, staring him down. He retorted, "I'll never agree to a divorce. I'm telling Mom," and stormed off. He was such a child, right until the end. As Ryan left, Mom was shouting at him to hurry up and go home. A few days later, I called Ryan. "Hello, Cammy," he said, trying to sound humble, but I was unmoved. In the background, I heard a noise. "What's that sound? Is someone there?" I asked, and Ryan's voice trembled. Sorry, I'm dog-sitting for a friend." "I love dogs," he stammered. "Sounds like a big dog, almost like it can talk." "Let me guess the name." "Emily," I said, and Ryan went silent. The baby monitor, which I'd always said I didn't need, turned out to be useful. As I said this, Ryan scrambled to turn it off, but it was too late. Wow, this thing is easy to operate. It even records. Perfect, I laughed. The room, prepared for my stay at my parents' house, now looked like a mess captured on the cameras, the two of them cuddled on the dirty sofa like a new couple. Who would think of romance in such a messy room? Clearly, they had the intelligence of monkeys. Actually, that's an insult to monkeys. I had always suspected he was seeing someone else, but I never imagined it would be with Emily. It all makes sense now. His constant talk about her. The realization that they've both been deceiving me all along fills me with fury. Ryan suddenly fell silent, and then Emily's voice came through the line, crying, "Hello, Sarah. It's Emily. I'm sorry, there's nothing going on between Ryan and me. We were just talking about you, that's all." What a lie. Fine, Emily, keep spinning your stories for social media. That's what finally shut her up. Emily, now a housewife, posts pictures on her social media almost daily of fancy meals, clearly takeout from expensive restaurants. It's easy to see through her charade. Colleagues feel sorry for her, but I considered her a friend, so I never joined in. "I thought you were a dear friend, Emily." Hearing my sad tone, she replied, "I'm sorry. It was just a fling with Ryan. I still want to be friends with you, Sarah." "Oops, I accidentally sent a video of you two to Ethan because I'm not very good with tech," I said cheerfully before hanging up. "As if I would forgive them. May they both go to hell." End quote. By Ginger Russo Barber, who passed away in 2011 at 82 St. Paul Medical Center, USA in disgrace. I had connections with Emily's husband's colleague, F, through work, and I knew exactly how to reach him. He contacted me immediately, grateful for the evidence, and confirmed that they had suspected the affair as well. "We'll take action," he promised. Despite her glamorous online presence, Emily was terrible at housework. Ethan suggested she work to get a change of pace, but she refused. "That's not really for me," she said. I found it amusing, especially considering her workspace was always a mess. No wonder she's fine with a room like that. I immediately reached out to someone else, and the person on the other end was furious. Eventually, I was summoned to my in-laws' house. My parents offered to come with me, but I asked them to stay home with Lily and went alone. When I arrived, I rang the doorbell. Karen answered with a serious expression. "Come in," she said. Inside, I saw my usually quiet father-in-law David and Ryan, who looked oddly triumphant. It seemed like Karen was going to scold me again. What a fool. Karen broke the silence. "Ryan, you told me the reason for the divorce was that Sarah had changed her mind. Is it true that you had an affair?" Ryan shot me a look as if I'd exposed him. "Well, it was just a fling. It's over now," he said in a low voice, avoiding eye contact. Who would have thought it would come to this? Karen's anger was palpable. Without warning, she slapped Ryan hard across the face. For a moment, he just stood there, hand on his cheek, stunned. I hate cheating men more than anything in the world. Ryan seemed genuinely frightened by Karen's rare outburst. He turned to David for support, but David only said coldly, "Don't look at me. You did this to yourself. Now deal with the consequences." Even David seemed shaken by Karen's fury. I knew Karen had no tolerance for infidelity. During a family gathering on the anniversary of a relative's death, cheating had come up as a topic. Karen was the only one to react with such anger. Everyone thought she must have been cheated on before. "Ryan, ever since I got pregnant, you've only cared about yourself. You must have been too busy cheating," Karen spat, slapping him again. Hearing those words, Ryan, realizing he had no escape, broke down sobbing. "No, that's not it, I swear. It wasn't like that." But I had no intention of forgiving him. Let him suffer. When we talked about alimony and child support, Ryan pleaded, "I don't have any money, Sarah. Please forgive me." I looked at him and said, "It's okay. You look fine. You'll figure it out." I repeated the same heartless words he had said to me 2 weeks after Lily was born when he told me to come home and clean the house. Hearing this, Ryan broke into tears again. Afterward, I reported his actions to his company. They promised to take appropriate action, but I didn't want him to lose his job and avoid paying child support, so I arranged for him to be transferred to a notoriously tough, labor-intensive subsidiary. His parents covered the compensation. Back at his parents' house, Ryan endured harsh treatment, especially from Karen, who had always been lenient with him. It was well-deserved. As for Emily, she too went through a divorce. Her excuse for having an affair with Ryan was her resentment over my constant praise at work. It didn't make sense. After that, her family disowned her. "I can't pay. I have no money," she shamelessly said when asked about compensation, as though it were an option. Now she's desperately working to pay me and Ethan. My life may not be as glamorous now, but I couldn't care less about a friend like her. Thanks to my parents' support, Lily is growing up just fine. My maternity leave is almost over, and my parents decided to move closer to my workplace. "We just want to be closer to Lily," they said, but I know it's because they're worried about me. Honestly, I couldn't be more grateful. Life has been tough, but I'm fully committed to raising my daughter as a single mother.